The Verity Polesie collision took place in the German Bight area on the 23rd of October 23, almost 2 years ago. The initial investigation report came out a year later. I have not been able to find the final investigation report as yet. I was in the area one day after the incident. First, we look at what happened and then we analyze it as regards the ColRegs. The Verity is a sub 100 meter freighter coming out of Bremen and heading north. The Polesie is a handy-sized bulk carrier coming out of Hamburg and going west. The conditions at that time, strong winds, good visibility. As they headed out through the traffic lanes, the Verity headed north and the Polesie headed west. These two were on collision course. When entering the TSS, the Polesie made an alteration of course about 20 degrees to her port to line up with the traffic lane. The Verity, almost at the same time, made a slight alteration of course to the north, presumably to pass astern of the Polesie on her original course. She may not have registered the new course of the Polesie. This put them both again on a collision course. There was a third ship in the mix, the passenger ship Iona, coming behind and on the port side of the Polesie. There were two other ships in the southbound lane, much further ahead. The Polesie was probably distracted watching them because she was the giveaway vessel for those two vessels, crossing from her starboard to port side. When the Verity made her course change, immediately after the Polesie, the distance between them was just over 2 nautical miles. Further, we see that the Polesie sees the Verity coming straight down on collision course. The Verity alters her course hard to starboard and comes directly head on into the Polesie. The Polesie also makes a course change of hard starboard and strikes the Verity hard. The AIS signal of the Verity disappeared within minutes of the collision. There were 8 people on board the Verity, and out of those 8, 5 were lost. Now, what rules come into play here? First, rule number 15. Crossing situation. When two power-driven vessels are crossing each other so as to involve risk of collision, the one which has the other to her own starboard side shall keep out of the way of the other and, if the circumstances of the case admit, avoid crossing ahead of the other vessel. Rule number 16. Action by give-way vessel. Any vessel required to give way to another vessel shall, if the circumstances of the case admit, take early and substantial action to allow for sufficient sea room. Rule 17. Action by stand-on vessel. 17A. When one of two vessels is required to keep out of the way of the other shall maintain her course and speed. A2. The latter may take action by her maneuver alone as soon as it becomes apparent to her that the vessel required to keep out of the way is not taking suitable action. This point, as soon as it becomes apparent to her. In open sea, this is definitely not less than 2 nautical miles. Before a vessel comes to 2 nautical miles, if she has not taken action, you will do something about it. Because if you do not, then as in this situation, it becomes too late. 17B. If for some reason the latter vessel finds herself so close that collision cannot be avoided by the action of the giveaway vessel alone, then she shall take such best action that will aid collision. Here you are given the leeway to do anything under the sun to prevent a collision. 17C. A power-driven vessel, when taking action in a crossing situation, shall, if the circumstances of the case admit, avoid an alteration of course to port, which is pretty much what the Polesie did. So where were the failures? 1. The Verity was a small craft. She is used to smaller CPAs. 2. The Verity was probably understaffed. Because she was understaffed, it is a possibility that the crew were not properly rested. This is all speculation. There is no investigation report that I could find as yet. And 3. When the Verity did alter her course change, she did not follow up until the other vessel was passed and clear. She set her course to pass the Polesie, but her calculation was based on the original course that the Polesie was following. It did not take into account the 20-degree alteration that the Polesie was doing just almost at the same time as she was altering her course. Keep in mind, any action taken to avoid collision shall be to result in passing the vessel at a safe distance, and the effectiveness of such action shall be monitored until the vessel is finally passed and clear. If you're interested in more ColRegs, I have a course in ColRegs with merchantnavydecoded.com. So you can check that out, and in any case, stay safe.